Welcome to Rice Crypto. I'm your host, Rice, and you have tuned in for part 2 of my interview with Amir Taaki. Before you proceed with this video, make sure you have watched part 1. It will be linked down below in the video description and the pinned comment. I think this is a good way to lead into where you're at now. With all the experiences that we've talked about, everything that you've learned, all the things that you've done in the cryptocurrency space, what you did in Syria, and coming out of that situation gave birth to DarkFi, which is really the highlight of what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to be respectful of you and your time. Do you mind sharing what exactly DarkFi is?
Yeah, so DarkFi is an L1 for anonymous smart contracts. So like now, all these kind of blockchains that are building applications like AMM and, borrowing or whatever, they're all vulnerable to front running into MEV. That doesn't exist on DarkFi. And more importantly, we're developing for strong anonymity, so you're protected. So, for example, earlier you mentioned the kind of Silk Road, and that's after the Silk Road got shut down, then I kind of created the origin of Open Bazaar, which was called Dark Market, and nobody that didn't take off because the guys who made it, they started taking A16Z money, and A16Z was, well, you have to implement censorship tech, and then since then nobody's actually built anonymous markets. So that's why we've created DarkFi. And also as a privacy project, I see a lot of privacy projects that they you go on their website and they go like, oh, join our Discord, and it's like, okay, well, how can you be a privacy project if you're using Discord? And then they also organize through GitHub. You want to make a task or something, they use GitHub issues. So we from day one, we were like, okay, no, we're going to do this right. We're not going to take like shortcuts. And so we actually made our own completely anonymous chat. There's like nothing that exists like it on the market. Like in Signal or Matrix. Signal's actually a bad example because you have to use a phone number. But like, let's say Matrix. On Matrix, it's not even decentralized. It's not peer-to-peer. There's some people running servers, but the servers are federated, okay? But you have to register an identity. And then every message that you make is linked to that identity. So if somehow one of these messages is able to dox my identity, then all of the other subsequent messages can be traced back to me because they're all linked together to the one consistent identity, which the server can actually see where you're logging in from and so on. In our chat, all of the messages are completely unlinkable, so that every message you send, in fact, like we're all using different nicknames every single day. We just like, and anybody can pick any nickname, and even if I send 2 consecutive messages using the same nickname, those messages are not linked to each other. You're also like, okay, it's a peer-to-peer network. It's completely anonymous. How do you stop spammers? Well, there's a cryptography technique that we have called rate limit nullifiers, which is where you're staking, and if you send too many messages in an epoch, which a normal client would not do, it would have to be a modified client, then you get slashed and you lose that money. So there's inbuilt protection, spam protection into the actual system in a peer-to-peer way. And this is what I mean about being able to use the modern cryptography to not just create the same things over and over again. Like now people are talking about, oh, modular blockchains, which is the latest pumpy narrative, but I don't see how that's getting us closer to what we envisioned with early crypto. Early crypto in 2011, was it? Yeah, like 2012 kind of time. We were like, oh, you know what? Cryptocurrency is an idea whose time has come. We just need to kind of sit back and like wait for it to come into being, and it will just happen. It will just materialize naturally. It's 2024 now. It still hasn't happened. So obviously, there's something wrong with what we've been doing. This is what I was talking about with Rojava, where I was like, okay, it's like you have to mobilize, you have to strategize, you have to work for it. You know, it's not just like woo, freedom, man. Like, you know, like, oh yeah, you know, like I'm a free individual. No, it's like we need to put our heads together. We need to think about, okay, where are we going to hit them where it hurts? We're only a small, scrappy group of creative, under-resourced geniuses, right? But what do we have? We have our creativity. So, okay, we can think about where we can put our energy that has maximum impact, and we all work really hard to make this to make this thing happen. You know, so that, you know, like a lot of this stuff is complicated. We're working non-stop every day. I mentioned the chat. We made a task system as well, decentralized anonymous task system. We have anonymous payments. We also have the world's first and only anonymous DAO. So you have like a treasury that's on chain, and you have a governance token. So it's token weighted voting, and nobody can see the treasury. Nobody can even see like anything about the DAO. They don't. It's just all encrypted on the chain, and then a DAO member can make a proposal to, you know, call some smart contracts. So, for example, transfer some money out of the DAO treasury, and all the participants in the DAO can vote on that. And the identity of the participants is hidden. What they're voting, yes, no, is hidden. The amounts that they're voting with are also hidden. Everything is completely hidden. And then at the end of the voting period, you know, if it passes, the action gets carried out. So it's no, and when the action is carried out, the money leaves the DAO treasury and it gets sent, you know, to the destinations. And nobody can see that action either. Nobody can see money, see the amount of money that's leaving the DAO treasury or where it's going. So, you know, so now we now we have a way to manage capital online, to manage our economics, our resources, and, you know, and that's, you know, we're just trying to get the mainnet out. We're not trying to like expand too much on the ecosystem application side. We just want to get the mainnet out, go liquid, so that then we can start iterating on the wider ecosystem. On the wider ecosystem, you know,
real quick. Can I pause you real quick? It's a layer one, so you're creating your own blockchain, correct?
Yeah, and actually the blockchain is merged mine with Monero.
Merged mine, sort of like what is happening with Doge and Litecoin.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a merge mining with that. So as you're mining Monero, you'll be able to mine the token. Now, is it what, DarkFi? Because I didn't know that there was a yeah, I'm sure I thought you would have known about that. It might have been in Syria when all that happened, but is there going to be a token? I'm assuming then.
Yeah, but I mean, I shouldn't talk too much about tokenomics right now because
that's fine. That's fine. We could do. That's where I said I want to do more interviews, and I'd like to be able to bring other people from the team on as well. So there's plenty of time to discuss all those things. I was just curious if it was his own blockchain, and eventually will have its own token. That's all.
Yeah, and and the Monero merge mining is because originally we were like, well, you know, maybe it should be proof of stake, but then we were like, okay, well, the problem with proof of stake is that the people who get it, who, you know, who are there in the beginning, who have allocation, they don't need to do anything, and they just get this disproportionate power over the network. Whereas in Monero, they have this random X algorithm, which if you actually look, it's actually unprofitable to run. And the Monero kind of miners, it's just people in their homes running these miners. So it's a very distributed network. And also Monero is a cool project. They're like very close to us in terms of ethos. You know, it's kind of nice to do an airdrop onto the Monero miners. So we were like, oh yeah, it makes sense to actually do a merge mining. And so a merge mining, what that means is that our blocks target the same difficulty as the Monero blocks. So when somebody mines a Monero block, they can also mine a DarkFi block at the same time, and they get an additional reward for that. But yeah, in terms of the wider ecosystem, you know, oh yeah, we also made file sharing. So you have something like an IPFS and
encrypted, I assume.
Yeah, you can put encrypted information on there. We have our own peer-to-peer network, which is running over Tor, or you can also use NIM for that. So it's privacy preserving. A lot of projects go, oh, we're privacy, and then you're like, okay, they're not really privacy. They're like linkable, or they're just doing some mixing. Like for example, Mimblewimble, the graph it exists, you can see it. Just the amounts are hidden. But then you look and then, you know, you actually see like all of these projects, basically, the peer-to-peer traffic is not hidden. So if you make a transaction, people can identify, oh, it comes from you. So we've got that base covered as well. And then I was mentioning like how a lot of projects, they gotta go like, oh yeah, I use Google Docs or I use Discord, and it's just so lazy. So we're trying to like not set up any centralized infrastructure. We're trying not to use any centralized proprietary services. So we had a prototype wiki in our repo. We're gonna make a accounting system as well. And also we want to make a Git backend. So, you know, like replace GitHub, which is a point of failure, like we saw with Tornado Cash, what happened. And then also, we have now an escrow system, and if you think about, you know, you've got the anonymous file sharing, you've got the escrow, you've got the chat system. You've basically got all the ingredients to make a marketplace. So, you know, for example, there was local Bitcoins. You could meet up, you could trade with people. There's like kind of BISC, but it's not very good. So no, there hasn't really been a good application to do that yet. And then you also mentioned dark leaks as well. Now we can actually implement dark leaks, but in a superior way, using like modern crypto, like MPC
and that's just more of like an anonymous encrypted version of WikiLeaks, I'm assuming.
It's like I have a file, like a document on UFOs or the latest Hollywood movie, and I go like I put it out there, and I'm like, okay, I'm a leaker. I'm taking tremendous amount of personal risk doing this. You know, it's good to have some financial compensation to balance it out. So I say to the community, look, this document is UFO document, and you go like, okay, prove it to me. So then there's a protocol, a cryptographic protocol that selects a random chunk of the file and decrypts it. And then I can't choose which chunk of the file is decrypted or chunks. And then you look at it and you go, oh, that's interesting. That indeed is what he says it is. Like, for example, if it's like, you know, latest Hollywood movie, you know, you'll be able to view it and you'll be like, oh yeah, that is what the movie is. And then it starts a bidding process, and the winner of that auction is able to decrypt the file and is able to get the file. So you've essentially created an information marketplace. And also, I was talking about anonymous market primitives for trading. Like, for example, I'm very interested in auctions as a way to achieve that. So, which is a way of hiding the order flow, the trading volume, which is important to protect against front running or MEV. So then, when there's an auction and volume is being sold, I purchase volume from that auction or from that pool, then now that's an anonymous trade between me and you, but now I have a piece of information that is valuable, which is that you were able, that this pool, which was offering this amount of liquidity, was offered me this amount of liquidity. So now, you know, other people on the network who cannot see the size of the pool that you're offering, I can now sell them a proof that I purchased this amount of volume from your pool. And so other people can bid on that information. They can choose to bid on that information and buy it off of me. And now we've created a secondary market for financial information. So a lot of this asymmetry with information opens up new forms of markets that didn't exist before.
I mean, there's an immense amount to this project, which is, again, one of the reasons why I'd like to have you back on for future conversations. But what, from your perspective, being somebody that has understood the privacy aspects and anonymity in crypto since the get-go, what do you think is separating what the DarkFi project is trying to do versus other privacy or anonymous coins?
Most of them are scams. They go like, oh, we're a privacy project. Just go on any of those projects. If they use Discord, or they use any proprietary, or they're using any proprietary platform like Slack or Keybase,
centralized platform for other people. Centralized platform. You're identifying yourself in some fashion.
I mean, we have a Telegram, but we don't use the Telegram. We use our own chat system. But we did have a matrix before. Monero project uses matrix /IRC. Those are like the main three. You know, IRC, it's like it's free software. It's also federated. Matrix, it's federated. Or any kind of peer-to-peer chat system. But if they're not doing that, if they're using Discord, why are they using Discord? Because then, or if, for example, when they did a token sale, I've seen a lot of projects, privacy projects, do a token sale on CoinsList. On CoinsList, you have to do a KYC. So your initial token holders who are going to gain benefit from your token is KYC community. Who's going to do that KYC? It's not going to be the target community that you're building the technology from. So why do projects do this? They do it because, you know, that's where the kind of pumpy retail value is. And, you know, they sell oversized allocations to VCs. They do these like launch pads. They go like, oh, look, we've got A16Z and Polychain, and then like retail goes, oh, this is the new coin that's going to pop. Let's get in quick. And they do the KYC and they get in on coins. Everybody tries to get in, and then they dump the token afterwards. It's like, okay, you just like, you know, you took money from retail and you like gave it to VCs. You didn't really deliver benefit to the privacy community, the people that actually has value for the technology. So, you know, I think there should be a lot, you know, just in terms of values, like, you know, like our projects are espousing certain values, held accountable, you know, for what they're doing, or are they taking the easy way out with how they do things? Secondly, technology side, I see a lot of bad false claims. Like, you know, like sometimes I wonder how much they are consciously lying versus being ignorant. Like I see a lot of projects, like for example, the most scammy one is the trusted hardware. Trusted hardware, you know, people who don't know better, they go, oh, it's interesting, trusted hardware could also. It's a scam. Trusted hardware, don't trust it. But then there's, you know, like up to making DarkFi, like I actually implemented like a lot of different iterations. I went through, you know, ring signatures and blinded credentials and Mimblewimble and 1 out of n, commitment to 0, etc. A lot of privacy projects that go like, oh, we're private, and then it's like, okay, what are you doing? Like, oh, we're doing confidential transactions. Okay, that's not anonymous at all. Like the transaction graph is public. Mimblewimble kind of goes like, oh, it's anonymous because you can delete the transaction graph, but it's like the transaction graph is public on the peer-to-peer network, and then you delete the info. It's still there. Like anybody could have logged that or seen that. It's like saying like, oh, I made a chat system where the client that you give to people to use doesn't have logging, doesn't log the messages, and then going, but you can still read the messages, but then going like, oh, this client, nobody can save. Of course, people can save the messages.
Well, since you said that, though, since you said most are scams, like most of the cryptocurrency that claim to be anonymous or private are scams, the majority of them. Which ones, aside from Monero that you mentioned, get your seal of approval for doing exactly what they claim they do, aside from Monero and what's being built with DarkFi?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like Zcash, Pirate Chain.
Yeah, but I mean, do you mean just cryptocurrency projects or outside of cryptocurrency projects?
Well, the ones that are the cryptocurrency projects, the ones that are claiming to be anonymous or privacy-based coins that you're saying, because you're saying instead of calling out the scams, which ones do you say are actually private and anonymous?
Okay, well, there's projects that are explicitly scams, and then there's like projects which is like, okay, like, do I think that they're necessarily doing things in the right way? Could they do things better? Sure. Like, do I think they're a scam? Definitely not. So, for example, like Aztec, I would put Aztec in that class. Like Aztec, it's a big corporation. Zcash as well, I put in the same class. Like, they're big corporations. They're trying to be friendly with regulators. They're taking that political line, but they have very good cryptographers working on their tech. Their cryptography is sound.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like being built with holes in it, with vulnerabilities on purpose, so that.
I mean, for example, you can always say that because of the philosophy that they have, that it causes them to make mistakes. Like, for example, Zcash has the transparent addresses, which is probably a mistake, because you want your anonymity set to be as big as possible. You don't want to fork, your on-chain activity into like a doxed pool, because then people who want to use the anonymous pool are unprotected. It's like you want all of the activity you want to socialize that, essentially. I know it sounds bad, but you do want to, it's a privacy chain, so you have to get everyone to use the privacy feature. But now the big thing that happened, so for example, another good project is Firo. They're an innovative project. They did not get any attention from anyone. They implemented 1 out of n commitment to 0, which is now Lelantus. But anyway, now they have the big issue with the exchanges, because they're only a very small project. It's not like DarkFi, like where, I mean, it's harder for them, isn't it? Like DarkFi is like, we can be a bit more like, oh yeah, fuck you, fuck the state, because like we have more clout. But they're a project, they've been around a long time. They have investors that they're beholden to, and now the exchanges are like, oh, we're gonna delist you. So it's kind of like a death knell for them. And like, oh no, don't delist us. And then like the exchange, like, okay, you've got to do the transparent, technology. You've got to, we can't have people sending anonymous payments to transparent addresses. Like and then they're like, you can actually read the discussion on their forum. It's a long discussion, and it's like, like there's like half of the people going like, oh, this is like the end. This is like, I reject this. You've lost. If you implement this, I'm gone from this. Then there's the other half of the community is like, oh, we need this liquidity. We can't afford to lose this as our project. So,
right.
that's where we're at.
So with DarkFi, I guess the final thing I'd like to ask, with the idea of being able to do more interviews, is I'm assuming that you're taking all these different technologies that you've seen throughout the years, like kind of like a best of, almost like Satoshi Nakamoto when creating Bitcoin, took all these different technologies, put them together. Is that kind of what you're doing to try to create what would be considered the premier anonymous privacy platform based off of all the technologies that we have currently today?
Well, I haven't mixed them all together, because actually it's not the best way to build technology is throwing things together. I'm actually very selective. And I have I can go more into
Well, I didn't mean it like that. That's why I was trying to get you to elaborate. I know you didn't just throw together a bunch of things in the pot and say, here we go, here's DarkFi. I know you were very, very meticulous. You were very meticulous. Yeah. I can tell that you don't just do something.
I mean, like in 2017, I came back from Syria, and everybody was like messaging me going, do an ICO, and I was like, wait, I've got to do my research. Like, I've got to really, and I wanted to make sure that the idea was perfect before going.
I commend you though, dude, because other people, they're just so greedy.
But I could have maybe done the ICO and then do the research, because I spent, it's like only 2020 that I was like, okay, I'm ready to start the project. And now in 2024, we're definitely going to launch, but
I'm excited.
We could have been in a much stronger position. Like, it could have been more advantageous for the cause of freedom, because there are some people. I'm very happy that I know some people who did well off with the ICO, and they're decent people who helped us out. But the majority of those people who did ICOs were scammers. So
I think it was close to 80%. It was 78% of all ICOs in 2017 ended up being scams, is the number.
And it's like a classic story where everybody I know in cryptocurrency who was idealistic, with the exception of a few rare people, they all ended up poor basically, and everybody else who ended up rich were scammers. So it's kind of sometimes we're a bit too idealistic. We want to do things we want things to be perfect. We're not there. We want to do things the right way. We don't want to rush and grab the money pot, and that actually ends up hurting us, But
I'm glad you didn't do an ICO though, man. I mean, it might have done things differently, but I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't follow some of those routes, because it makes it feel like you guys are keeping true to what you guys are trying to build and not trying to have any outside influence for any reason. So
yeah, well, but it's not to be, I'm quite optimistic actually about the way things have changed. It's people are really aware now compared to a few years ago. Before the Snowden leaks, I was telling everyone, I was like, London has the highest rate of CCTV in the world, and I was showing them this library called OpenCV. I was like, I can download this library and I can do facial recognition, and I could do it in 5 minutes. And if I can do it, you can be certain that they're doing it with all of those cameras they have. And people are like, ooh, you know, like looking like, oh yeah, like a bit, like you're a bit weird. And then the Snowden revelation came out, and then suddenly, like, everybody was like, "Oh my God, they're spying on us!" And it's like, "Yeah,
Yeah, I've been
of
saying that for
course."
years, but you guys didn't want to listen to me because you thought that I was the crazy revolutionary hacktivist.
But then, there's guys since the 90s have been going like, the US dollar's gonna collapse this year. It can't go up any higher. And then it's like, the exponential graph, you just keep zooming out and it keeps going up. And you're like, oh, I can't get higher. And you zoom out and again, it goes up again.
Yeah.
It's like the nature of an exponential graph. And I even got a friend, and he says that, like, he's the one at the family dinner every year that goes, the economy's going to collapse this year. It's going to happen. And it hasn't happened yet. And everybody's kind of like looking, oh, when's this going to happen? And it's, we're in this like kind of era where, the enemies of freedom, like the people in WF are like openly saying on stage, going, that we're losing our grip on power, and then like doing wild things like making automated drones that like just are able to stay in the air like 10 to 12 kilometers up in the air, like non-stop, and just completely control an area on the ground, like an entire region, that anybody that walks on that ground can be eliminated. They even made now ninja missiles, the RX-9 in the US, and the missiles that they don't explode on impact. They shoot ninja swords at a target. They like mince up a single person, so they're highly precise. And then there's the whole CBDC social credit scoring dystopia that they're trying to bring in.
Add digital ID to that.
Yeah, and the whole casino gulag surveillance capitalism, which like 2021 had that vibe where, people are like, everybody was like YOLOing into these shit coins, and they were kind of going, oh, I've got no hope in life, no way to escape this this like enslavement. I'm gonna like try and gamble my life's wealth on like, a poo-poo coin to try and like get out of it. And there's the whole kind of vision of society where we're just like little pinheads managed by this big AI mega machine. And this is like a spiritual war where,
I'm glad you say like, it is spiritual. This is, everything comes down to spiritual warfare. That's the root of all of this.
There's like hidden messages in the media, and it's like in England at least, there's all these like rumors that keep coming out. Like it keeps popping up in the news. It's like, oh yeah, no, these are not connected. Oh yes, there was this high up guy doing pedophilia and child sacrifice and kids disappearing from off, but they're not connected. They're separate incidents. It's like, okay, like there's something deeply wrong in the centers of power. And it's like I talk about, and it's true, because I like talk about like the Overton window has shifted, like where people are like, now everybody collectively, anybody you speak with, everybody deeply feels that we've reached this point, and that like in the next 5 years or so, there has to be this like major event of like macroeconomic or political significance. We don't know what it is, but everybody like deeply feels that it's like this impending like kind of doom that's coming, and you see it in the sci-fi, in like the movies on Netflix. It's like a reflection.
We're being conditioned. We're being conditioned with this idea 100%.
Yeah, but I also think it's kind of like a reflection of what people are also deeply feeling as well. And it's funny because that's what happened with 9/11, where people were kind of like in the 90s. In when I was in school, I was like drawing pictures, and I would always draw pictures of like, there was one picture I would draw a lot, which was, there's skyscrapers and there's a tsunami coming past the skyscrapers, and there's like big whales and sharks and stuff coming in into the city. And I was just drawing it because I was bored. And it's funny because you look at the movies from the 90s and they're all kind of childish now when we look at them. Things like Independence Day and Godzilla, or, you know, is it the one with the, anyway, all these like environmental movies as well.
I don't know which, I mean, I was going to try to help you out, but you didn't give me any clue there.
There was like one about like the weather or something. I can't remember. Anyway, there's loads of these movies.
The Day After Tomorrow, something.
Yeah, that one. There's like loads of these movies from the 90s, but it's like kind of like, you know, the Soviet Union fell, neoliberalism reached its like peak, and it was like victorious, and then everybody was like, oh, this, and there were like people even saying like, oh, we've won. This is it. Everything's finished now. There's nothing that can ever happen ever again. Like history's finished. And then they're all, and then like we were all like, okay, this is it, I suppose, and we were all like bored by it, and we were all kind of wishing or kind of fantasizing about some kind of apocalypse. And then what happened was 9/11, and 9/11 was like tapping into that unconscious kind of desire of people, and that's why it was so powerful, and that's why it changed everything. I remember
it's like unconscious manifestation almost.
Yeah, we manifest it, and that's what I'm saying
unconsciously.
Now, people. It's like as human beings, when we see people that are like super powerful, we like instinctively feel disgust about that, and it's like now, and it's mainly because like having that amount of power, unrestrained power, it kind of makes people sadistic. It's like how Bakunin said that if you took the most ardent revolutionary and you vest him with absolute power, he'd be worse than the Tsar himself within like a week or whatever. And it's kind of like now, like where people are going, oh, they're doing child sacrifice, and it's not yet public, but it's kind of like it's enough widespread. It's like, oh, they're doing satanic rituals. There's like messages in the media. They're like conditioning people. And it's like, you know, like people are talking about that widely now. It's like how much and they're even saying now in the WF, like, oh, you know, we've like lost control, blah, blah. So, you know, and then like crypto comes into this mix, and like, you know, what is crypto? Crypto literally renders the business model of nation states obsolete. We've literally got like assets that we can move at the speed of light across the world, uncensored. Like they move at the speed of law, we move at the speed of light. You know, like we can now unsanctioned nations that before were not sanctioned, were not allowed to exist, can now mobilize online. They can use tools like DarkFi, you know, to establish themselves politically, economically. You know, we can construct parallel societies, which are the seed of the future society, you know, where its DNA resists authority. You know, like we're talking about like this system is coming to an end, and it will come to an end. And, you know, it's not like my desire for it to be tragic, but if history shows us, we should be prepared to accept that it will cause that this reorientation will cause a tremendous amount of human suffering. It's like a constant throughout history when the old order dies, and like for example, when Rome collapsed, and after Rome collapsed, it was like this vacuum where before there was this empire, this glorious, huge empire, and then now people were on their own. There was no state. And it was like, okay, you have to, you know, figure this out. And then, you know, people started to organize, and there was like competition for the power vacuums and little mafias and period of violence and gangsterism. And then that was kind of like the origin of the church. And now cryptocurrency literally gives us a way that we can now financially, economically organize, and the state, which its main source of income is seizing the economic economic potential from society. Like society creates value. All the value in the world comes from society. The state does not create value. The state extracts that value from society. And now we literally have created the means to prevent them from extracting value from society. That's going to change a lot of things. And also, and it means now that people don't need to pay fees to their local nation state. So you can
Fees
have,
as in the T word that ends with an X.
yeah. and also you can have all kind of legal goods delivered to your home. You know, nobody can start like just transaction peer-to-peer between two people. You know, if you go on Wikipedia and you search hard power, it says that hard power is defined as economic and military power. But I think we can add a third category to that, which is cryptography. Cryptography is a third emerging form of hard power, not merely defensive in the sense of, oh, there's this surveillance state and we want to stop them taking away our freedom. It's like, no, we could use this in an offensive to take our freedom, to own our freedom, our sovereignty, in effect, an expansive way. And crypto, it's a hard power that we can use to mobilize. It's a super weapon. You know, I'm studying now a lot of math and a lot of this new crypto. We're just getting beginning. We're just getting warmed up. But also, we have to realize the mistakes from our past. You know, like the lessons, like from Rojava and other places. We can't be relaxed. You know, like we can't just go like, oh yeah, we're so powerful. We don't need to do nothing. No, we actually need to work harder because these tools are so powerful, because we're responsible. We need to pick up our means of self-defense. We need to utilize those tools to construct our freedom, these parallel societies. So, you know, like DarkFi is such an economic network. You know, it's like my kind of contribution or step that I see that I can best do towards that vision of the future. We did actually the Assange DAO, which Assange DAO raised 50 million for Assange, but it was really shitty because it was a DAO that was on Ethereum and it was doxed. And our motto of the DAO was to free Assange by all means necessary. But
right.
yeah,
all means,
yeah,
which means
means,
anything
yeah,
outside
exactly.
the box, things that may not be considered.
Yeah, thinking
legal.
about outside the box. Well, I don't know. Oh, careful with that L word, you know.
Well,
Like,
that was out of my mouth, not yours.
that's your idea. But anyway, so yeah, it was a public DAO, and you can't operate the public DAO like that.
Right.
So that's why I made the anonymous DAO in DarkFi. We made the anonymous DAO. It's like, okay, we need this tool.
Based off like the things that you've been saying, I mean, it sounds like this is like what you and the team at DarkFi are trying to build and solve the problems of the mistakes of the past, and taking all these different technologies. And like you said, we're just getting started. Would that be a best way to explain this? Is like you're trying, like what DarkFi is trying to build will be a solution for the things that you've just talked about.
Yeah, we're like stepping up to like mobilize and like deliver.
And I didn't mean to interrupt. I know you got some notes there, so I'll let you continue. But I just want people to realize the significance of DarkFi, man.
I was actually just looking at. I got distracted, like I was, because we won Web3 Privacy of the Year just now. Like I saw the news.
Oh, okay. So we're recording this on the 24th of January. It's coming out the 25th or 26th. So what did you just discover?
Oh, someone just linked it to me. It said 2023, they had like a Web3 privacy. People could vote on the best projects, and we got voted the best project of the year. So that's nice.
Well, shout out to DarkFi. Congratulations to you and the team, man.
Thank you.
Like I said, I want to do deeper dives in the project. I want to do some deeper elaborations on some of the things that we discussed, and I'd like to get some of the other team members on it. And we went beyond the time that I had tried to allot with you. So I appreciate you being generous with your time, Amir. And again, I'm going to have links down below for everything that we did share on today's video. Did you just send me? Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up. I'll pull it up so I can get that screen shared. And then, like I said, I'll have links down below for everything that we screen shared on today's video so you guys can do a deeper dive. Check out dark.fi and make sure you're reading the manifesto. There's a lot of information there in the manifesto that will explain a lot of information for everybody. And I will include a link for this, the 2023 Privacy Proof finalists announced. And it says that we are thrilled to announce the finalists of the 23 Privacy Proof annual privacy tech poll made by the community, enthusiasts, developers, researchers, cryptographers, cypherpunks, and community builders from the logos, DarkFi, Swarm, Hopper, Railgun, NIM, Circles, UBI, Rotkey, Puzzle, Espresso Systems, and many other organizations made their choice. And as we scroll down,
so
Project of the Year, DarkFi.
Yeah, interestingly, on the major news or key events section, the Tornado Cash case is 4x the second one, which is the privacy coins being delisted from the CX, the sexes. So that's interesting because I was reading The Sovereign Individual, and in that book it makes a lot of outlandish claims, which, you know, like, it was written in the 90s, and you read it, you're kind of like, oh, hold on a sec, but then actually you like reflect, you're like, actually it's got a point. Like,
you're talking about the Dark Forest?
No, Sovereign Individual.
Okay, Sovereign Individual, that's the name of the book?
Yeah, it was written in the 90s.
Okay.
It's actually a book about cryptocurrency. So what he says in the book is that they're going to combine the CIA and the IRS into one institution and begin assassinating people. And you're like, whoa, you know, like, but then, you know, like McAfee, you know, gets suicide, the MakerDAO guy gets suicided, you know, all these people like Jay Stark. I don't know if you know Jay Stark. He turned up suicided as well. And so then, like, now, you know, the Tornado Cash people, they were trying to play it safe. You know, they were kind of going, oh, we're just like, and they were just developers, and they're not like political. And so now, like, people are like, whoa, wait, they put them in jail? That's shocking. It's like, well, yeah, if you know anything about history, like, it shouldn't shock you. You know, like, they do that stuff all the time. They murder people. They put people in jail. They're like, that's what the people in power do. There's like no democracy. But it's interesting because it's 4x the second thing. So it's like it has a big psychological impact on people that they actually put him in jail. So it could be something that galvanizes cryptocurrency community. You know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you your thoughts about the Tornado Cash thing, and I think it was just yesterday, and it may have been the day before on Twitter, but the Tornado Cash developer is asking for support ahead of the trial because it could make it's going to set a major precedent in crypto one way or the other. And being what you do for, you know, as your line of work, I was curious, like, what are your thoughts about what happened, and do you think that this puts you and your team like in any sort of predicament that could be parallel?
It puts us in a really strong position because it vindicates what we're saying to people, which is like, you can't build projects on Discord and GitHub. We need to actually build them peer-to-peer, anonymous, with our principles. You know, we can't be like trying to play up to regulators. There's like, as the Sovereign Individual says, there's like a fight where the nation state has everything to lose and we have everything to gain. It's like, that's what cryptocurrency is about, essentially. You know, I don't know if you know Jay Stark as well.
You mentioned him now. You said he got sued.
Yeah, he like created. So, you know, Cody Wilson created the one-shot 3D printed gun, but actually Jay Stark created a automatic weapon, like an actual good automatic weapon.
A 3D printed automatic.
Yeah, they're actually used now in wars across the world. Like in Myanmar, the rebels who are fighting the government are using Jay Stark's weapon. It's called the FGC-9.
Okay.
Anyway, he was German. He was actually Kurdish. He was into Öcalan as well. But the German police raided him. And the day that he got raided, they said, oh, he had a heart attack.
Wow. Speaking of McAfee, I did 7 interviews with John before he passed away. And then I did Janice's widow's first public interviews after John's death. And she's coming back on soon because it's been about a month, roughly a month or less, that they finally released his body. She says she couldn't get, one of the things that she was wanting to do is get an independent autopsy, but she says based off of the condition of the way they took care of the body and the condition it was left in, there really was, she claims there wasn't a lot that could be done with an independent autopsy.
Yeah, I like the meme from Monero where it's got McAfee and he's going, Anon, think Anon. Monero is the only actual cryptocurrency that's used. I think that's such a really good meme. Like
no, it's powerful, man. I appreciate everything.
Red pilling us.
I would even, but I mean, dude, like, I appreciate people like McAfee, the things they've done, and I appreciate people like you, man. I mean, it's people like you guys that have helped to put cryptocurrency where it is today. So I appreciate you, man. And I'm definitely looking forward to more conversations. I do want to be respectful of your time, as I said. Before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts, anything you want to add that you didn't mention or anything that you want to highlight?
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean we've been doing this.
Give me a prompt, I would probably go off on another rant.
Well, come to the States, man. We can go to a pub.
Yeah, I actually, it's difficult for me to go to States. Like,
are you on a list?
I'm blocked from the Five Eyes countries.
Okay.
That's the issue.
So yeah, because I think you were on some kind of T list in the UK. I got to be careful of the words, man. I may have to bleep parts of some of the things you said just for the YouTube algorithm, because you said being controlled by AI.
Where he goes beep errorist.
Yeah. A beep errorist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Man. Yeah. Anyway.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, I got into an internet argument on Telegram recently, and someone was going like, "Oh, you fucking Muslim, blah blah." So I was like, oh, "Okay, I'm not gonna."
I would say, like, based off the stuff that I've seen doing the research to get some more information on you, this is the most Iranian that you've looked throughout your life. You look like one of the people fighting in Syria.
Yeah, or maybe it's my what's it called? What's that guy? The one who wrote Marcus Aurelius. It's my Marcus Aurelius.
Nice. And I've seen you go through a phase of haircuts. You had a mohawk for a little bit of time, a nice mullet. You had a really cool mullet. I mean, you've had an interesting life. That's why I really encourage people to kind of do a deeper dive on some of the things you did. Because I mean, we didn't even cover half of, like, you were a squatter taking over these buildings of rich people and utilizing them because they weren't being used, and you were doing it based on print.
In London, they've literally got, like, London is full of, it's just full everywhere of empty buildings because billionaires, they buy these giant buildings and they just use them as stacks of money that they move around. They're not actually like properties that people use or like live in. They're just empty. That's like London.
It's like the stuff that you did kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that you would see from, like, Fight Club or Project Mayhem.
Oh yeah, we used to have a Fight Club as young guys.
I believe it. Well, dude, again, man,
great movie.
I thoroughly appreciate you taking the time to do this, especially, offering me so much time. And I look forward to being able to do more conversations and connect with other members of your team. If you could bear with me 1 second, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up and stop the recording. So Again, ladies and gentlemen, I will have links down below for everything that we screen shared on today's conversation. I do appreciate you tuning in and watching all the way to the very end. I'm going to be definitely splitting this thing up into 2 parts. If you're not subscribed over here at Rice Crypto, I ask you, what are you waiting for? Make sure you subscribe. And before we wrap things up, as always, I encourage you to be a blessing to others, treat people how you want to be treated, be the glitch that you want to see in this matrix, be the change that you want to see in this world. And until next time, practice change.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for having me.
Don't forget to visit ricetvx.com, where you can watch both of my YouTube channels, Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, directly. Find all of my social media links, sign up for my mailing list, and become a member of Rice Uncensored, where you can join me on the private side for less than $0.25 a day. You will get early access to both Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, ad-free, unedited videos, exclusive content, members-only forum with direct access to me, live streams, and more to come, only at ricetvx.com.